Hi everybody, Captain Al speaking with your time training tips and 10 ticks targeted to teaching technical type transport travel through tailored tiny takeaways. Episode 2, the question for today in the Boeing 747-400 and Boeing 747-8, how do you remove altitude restrictions? Let's go over to the virtual simulator and take a look. Okay, we're in the virtual simulator. We're on runway 16 left at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. We're going from Seattle to San Francisco. The route of flight is via the Harab 6 departure, Arave transition to Arave, Quebec 1 to Etchi, which is an RNAV routing direct to Melbic. The Melbic transition for the Bodega 3 arrival into San Francisco. We've got our cruise altitude is 390. We've got 5,000 set in the MCP for our initial altitude as assigned by ATC. And we've got several altitude restrictions in here, crossing Renby at or above 3,000, which is right here. And then crossing Emerald, it's 7,000. And crossing Harab at 11,000, and then crossing Arave at flight level 220 on our way up to our cruise altitude of 390. And there's 4 ways to remove altitude restrictions. We're going to show you all 4 ways. One way is to delete the altitude at one right on the climb page. One right will always show you the next altitude restriction in line, and this is the first one, which is a conditional waypoint because we're flying a 165 heading until passing 932 feet, and then once it does that, it'll pick up the 162 course to CAVUB in LNAV. We've got LNAV armed, we've got VNAV armed, so once this condition is met, it will then go to CAVUB and to Renby and to Richer in LNAV. So we can delete at one right. We can also delete at any of the altitude restrictions on the legs page. A conditional waypoint you actually can't delete, but everything else you could delete. If we tried to delete that, it probably won't let me. Invalid delete. But if we tried to delete over here, and we try to delete the Renby at 3,000 or above, it'll let us do that. We'll erase that. So we can delete on the climb page, we can delete on the legs page. We can also go climb direct. If we go climb direct, that's going to remove all altitude restrictions up to but not including the MCP altitude window. So in this case, if we did go climb direct, it would wipe out everything. It would wipe out this Renby at or above 3,000, and that's it. If we put 390 in here, then it would wipe out this one. It would wipe out the 7,000 at Emerald. It would wipe out the Harab at 11,000 and the Arave at flight level 220. So it would remove all the altitude restrictions up to but not including the MCP window, which would be set to 390. And normally, of course, we're going to set this as ATC clears us, and we're going to usually back up these altitude restrictions using the mode control panel. The other way we can remove the restriction is to push the altitude selector. Each push of the altitude selector will remove one restriction, and you could, with each push, you'll remove subsequent altitude restrictions. So those are the 4 ways you can generally do it. You can delete on the climb page, you can delete on the legs page, you can go climb direct on the climb page, and that's got some restrictions with it, or you can use the altitude selector. And we're going to show you all 4 of those ways. So we'll take off. Once we get airborne, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're climbing. We're just out of 3,000 feet, climbing to 5,000. We've got just passing Renby at or above 3,000, so that restriction will drop out as we pass Renby. And then the next waypoint will be Richer at 7,000 will be the restriction there. Or actually 7,000 will be the prediction at Richer, the FMC prediction. and then Emerald at 7,000 will be the restriction. Okay, we've leveled at 7,000 feet to cross Emerald at 7,000 feet. We're cleared up to 15,000 now. We're going to look at the different ways we can remove the restrictions. We said two of the ways were to delete on the climb page or delete on the legs page. So let's delete on the climb page first. We push delete. Delete shows up in the scratch pad, and we can delete 1R, which would remove this restriction. And once we execute it, the airplane would climb then to 15,000. We already have 15,000 set in the window. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll push that, and then we could execute. We're not going to do that though. If we executed, it would start to climb. We're going to erase that. The other way would be to delete on the legs page. So we can go ahead and do the same thing, delete on the legs page, and then delete the 7,000 foot here. And when we execute, the airplane will climb to 15,000. So let's go ahead and do that now. You'll notice that in either case, you can see that it removes the restriction here and it removes the restriction here. It removes it on the climb page and on the legs page. And usually once you're airborne, the captain is on the climb page and the first officer is on the legs page. So the captain, especially above 10,000 feet, could do it himself if he wanted to. In this case, we're not above 10,000 feet, we're below 10,000 feet, so he would probably request that the first officer go ahead and delete the 7,000 foot on the legs page, and then the FO could do that. So again, you can delete here on the climb page. Alternatively, you can delete here on the legs page. We'll go ahead and execute that. The airplane will climb. Thrust ref, VNAV speed. Airplane's going up to 15,000. We'll leave it at 15,000. Normally we probably set 1,000 in to back up the 1,000 at HAROB, but we'll leave it like that. Now the other thing we can do is, since we're climbing to 1,000, you'll notice that, or 15,000 to cross HAROB at 1,000. You'll notice again we've got the restriction on the climb page, we've got the restriction on the legs page. And if we want to remove this restriction, if we're cleared unrestricted to 15,000 now, and we don't want to use the delete method, we could simply reach up as pilot flying, and I could push the altitude selector, and that will remove one of the altitudes, the next restriction that's we're coming up on. So let's go ahead and push that, and that will remove the 1,000 at HAROB. And now we're cleared unrestricted to 15,000. The next restriction remains in there, which is at Aravi at flight level 220. So the airplane will level off at 15,000. And it'll go to speed and VNAV out when it does capture. Let's say now though we are cleared up to flight level 330. Or let's make it 390, which is our cruise altitude. So let's set in the 390, and again we'll say we're unrestricted up to flight level 390. So we're on our way climbing to flight level 390 now to cross Aravi at flight level 220. And if we were cleared unrestricted now up to 390, we can remove the restriction at Aravi. Another way we can do that is by, again, we can do it either by pushing the selector, which would remove the restriction, delete on the climb page, delete on the climb page, delete on the legs page, delete, or we can use climb direct. Climb direct is going to wipe out everything between you and the MCP window, but not including the MCP window. So in this case, there's only one restriction between us and right now Aravi, and that'll be this flight level 220. So when you go climb direct, let's say you had a restriction here and here and here and here and all the way up to 390, and we're cleared up to 390, then we could go ahead and use climb direct. In fact, let's put something at, let's put 270 at Eason. Okay, so we got a couple here. 220 at Aravi and 270 at Eason. So if you use climb direct, that's going to wipe out all restrictions between you and the MCP window, not including that 390. So if you push that, you notice both of these are now gone. The climb page is blank, and when you execute that, it'll go ahead then and remove those restrictions. So those are the 4 ways you can remove altitude restrictions. Thanks for watching.